We are talking today about Leviticus. I'll throw in there as well. Get in a good church.
Full transparency, this is something I've struggled with a lot in the past.
I don't know 100% the validity of this. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out Basically Biblical. So we have another really cool testimony, really powerful testimony today. I have on with me my friend Lena. We actually met through a Facebook group. I was looking for some people to do these testimonies. And so we connected, talked a little bit, and just from what I've heard, it's extremely powerful. I do think that we're going to see a lot of benefit from this. I think that anybody that hears this is going to be able to take something away from it, just from the little bit that I've heard of her testimony so far. So before I take up too much time on an introduction, I'll go ahead and throw it to you, and just you can go right into it. Give a short maybe introduction, and then if you want to go straight into your testimony, we can do that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jesse, for having me. And honestly, guys, I would never have imagined that after 20 years of silence, I would be standing on stage in front of hundreds of people, and that my story going to be broadcasted all over social media. Because in the past, I was afraid of judgment and rejection because I thought my story was of shame, guilt, and condemnation. But now I know it's God's story of salvation, of thriving after trauma, of overcoming adversity, and of healing, And today I'm a wife and a mother of 3 beautiful children, and I'm author of spiritual autobiography called Miraculous, My Journey from Hell to Heaven. And I will start at the beginning. I was born and raised in Ukraine, and my parents really struggled in their marriage. Later on, they became alcoholics and lost well-paid jobs. And our home was infested with cockroaches, mice, and black mold. And we struggled in poverty trying to survive. And the government actually turned off electricity and hot water for outstanding bills. So I was hungry all the time. I was like practically starving. And my home always been full of strangers. They brought the booze and drugs, but that was the opportunity for me to eat. So I was kind of always hanging around. And my parents didn't protect me, and very early I became an easy target for those guys. And I was actually drugged and raped in a basement of my apartment numerous times. And no parents, no government, no police was actually protecting me and looking into the cases that I brought, which is very bizarre now. I'm thinking living in this beautiful country. Honestly, guys, when I thought things just couldn't get any worse, 1 month before my 15th birthday, I woke up with this severe abdominal pain, and I was so scared and confused what's going on until I realized that I was in labor. So actually, I didn't know I was pregnant, and I didn't know who her father was. So my baby died 3 months later from health complications. And honestly, I buried her. I was 15 years old. I carried this teeny tiny casket to the cemetery, and for the next 20 years, I like this image just plagued my mind and my soul. So I was using drugs and alcohol to medicate my pain. And then it was not enough. So I looked into like some hardcore drugs just to numb my brain and kind of like turn off my brain for a very long time. So I used heroin because it was better to be high than feeling worthless and hopeless and helpless and very broken. So the years went by. I really don't remember much. Then one moment, literally, I have this almost awakening. I think I'm really tired of that lifestyle, and I saw people dying around me and who went to jail. And I was so desperate and in despair. I knew that if anything was to change in my life, it's needed to change. But there is no hopes and dreams for people like me. I was street junkie. And oh my goodness, through the mutual friend, I met this lady, and she looked like a celebrity. Honestly, she was and wealthy and but another thing, she was kind to me. She was very rich looking lady, but she was kind and compassionate to me. And she brought me to her house and she offered me fancy coffee and sweets. And I was so impressed that somebody cared. So she honestly, she offered me a job. And in that moment, I felt so wonderful and safe. And I thought it was a great opportunity to get out from the street and somebody cared to help. So I didn't really um, thought twice. I just agree, eager to escape. So that time I didn't know that she's gonna be villain in my story because all she said she would able to find me a job. There's no specifics. I agree. And her team went to work. They washed me, they cleaned me, they give me the script, they brought me to the embassies and all this stuff. And there was a moment actually because I'm still on drugs. I'm still a junkie, but now better looking and clean looking from outside, but I still on drugs.
Right.
So half of this stuff like is very vague. But I remember I had a moment there like, what kind of job I would be doing? But it's still, I don't know, it's like maybe like if if I was naive, or lots of kids can get trapped by just some, and if the predator is just meeting the basic human needs, be loved, to be kind, to help emotionally or like physically with the clothing, stuff like that. So definitely it's a trap, everything good, pretty and free. Usually that's what happening in this world. And that's actually what I speak a lot on, because like if we could see evil as we draw in the pictures of the devil as being like something dark with the horns, with the pitchfork, you would know that you have to run because the devil is in front of you. But this lady was amazing. Like honestly, like even now I have a goosebumps thinking about the fact that nobody lured me into anything the way she did. And that's why it was so easy to agree, because we all crave that. And you don't have to be street junkie. You still can
Right.
crave and love and care and attention and not only the gifts or something like that. But that's what's so interesting, because they play on those human emotion and human needs. So they find it what you need and give you what you need. So
And that's,
you
I
have to
think,
be very
to
careful.
kind of, yeah, to kind of jump in there a little bit, I think that's common to what we see from not just this specific, but just in general. The Bible says that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. And so I think most things like this, where people get trapped in addiction or, just dependency on different things, whether it's people or substances or trapped in different lifestyles and stuff like that. Typically, I think most people go into it seeing it as a positive thing, and they just can't see past to see, the negative that's there, that's going to eventually really dig its claws into you and hold you, not be able to, not let you go forward from that. No, that's really really good. I like that so far. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, I want to just say something about you say, because you're absolutely right. And I'm telling you, people don't quit drugs just because they can't. People don't leave abusing relationship because you can. And you know what? If you never use heroin, you cannot say that it's easy. And most of the people really don't encounter those situations, and thanks God. But we have like our own addictions. It can be like chocolate. And everybody is suffering. Everybody can get addicted. And because it's an illusion that it's helping, and it's not that easy to walk away from it. That's what I learned, to be kind to people. You don't have to be raped or abused to have a trauma. So we have to be just kind to one another. But that time I was like really on heavy drugs, so I really vaguely remember in a report. And how I got through customs, I'll never know. I just woke up one morning hearing this Muslim call to prayer, Allahu Akbar, run out. So I was really confused where I was, and everything, the smell was different and the look was different. And I was in my country, it was winter, and then next day it was summer. So I tried to like put two together, and I realized that that nice rich looking lady actually sold me into human trafficking in a foreign country. And I find out that I was in Cairo, Egypt. And of course, as any addict, I started to think, where's my next dose gonna come from? Because I was already nauseous and I know that I need it soon. And then I got really scared because I know what's happening when you don't get the second dose or next dose. But I think because my mind was so like allured by the surrounding and try to figure out where it was, I actually did recover. And people like literally dying from quitting heroin because the body just shut down. And I think like I got pretty close to that. But I'm thinking that it's my mind, but I know exactly that God saved me, because I have so many episodes, especially with drugs, but plus with abuse as well, that I come so close that I could be dead million times over. So now, since the time I gave my life to Christ, and I do understand that that was just God's grace, because like that's way too miraculous to overcome that. And now I know that some people does not survive what I went through. So I definitely know that was God's hand in it, because he has a purpose and a plan for my life, and he has a purpose and a plan for your life. Doesn't matter
Amen.
where you now, and doesn't matter what you're going through right now, although it might be so crazy hard and you don't see tomorrow. So my advice to you, just don't give up today, and don't give up on God. Don't give up on people who trying to help you and love you, because you are not alone, and you are never alone. And your life is significant and valuable. You just need to get through it. Everything is temporary. Honestly, that's what I've learned. You can survive, overcome, and thrive. Just give it a time. Sometimes it's gonna be a long time. Literally, today I'm speaking about it and I don't even shed the tear. For 20 years, I hold this in my heart because I was scared to tell this to people. And now, the first time when I shared that with my friend, it was 5 hours and I cried nonstop. My heart was just overwhelmed with actually gratitude. There was no pain. And that was really kind of like was eye opening, because now I'm healed. But it took me 20 years to get here, to speak about this and then start talking about this. And now I'm sharing my story for almost 3 years. So that's why it feels like this right now, and I can give you this advice because I do believe I'm on another side. But it took me time to heal, and therapy and counseling, lots of prayer. My book took 3 years, and I do believe I actually call it my therapy with God, because I have to pour out everything that between me and God first, and then go to between me and people. And that's why it feels this way sometimes. Like I even can smile and I'm thinking, that's bizarre. I hear myself telling this story, but it doesn't have a hold on me. But it did happen, and there was trauma.
Yeah. So, um, if you can, let's talk a little more about kind of if you have some like specifics for kind of how you got from that point to where you are now. As much, I mean, as much or as little details you want to give, but I know that. So I really like apologetics, which if anyone's watching doesn't know, is just defending the faith. Um, and I know one thing that people will typically bring up is the idea that if that because there's suffering in the world, then that either means that there can't be a God or that he's not really good because he allows this stuff to happen. And I know we're not going to get into the apologetic of it, but there's like this whole kind of conversation you can have with somebody about that. But seeing the what you've gone through, what you experienced, and that you're able to sit on the other side of it and see not only is there a God, but he's good, and there's a purpose for what he has for you now, that he brought you through all of this to serve that purpose now. And even the short conversations we've had already, you're very you come across very, very lighthearted. You do enjoy life. We've talked a little bit before we started recording, and there's just just talking with you, I don't think anyone would ever guess that you went through what you went through. So if you can, for maybe somebody that's either similar trauma or something else, how did you go about kind of reconciling that idea that there is a God, he is good, and I still went through this stuff, and then getting to where you are now?
Yes, honestly, like that's a really good insight. And I would like to add to that, if somebody today would come with this magic wand and say, Lena, you can start your life from beginning, from that 6 years old, that when all this discord started. That since I remember myself, okay? So that's I was thinking, if somebody said, I can give you a wonderful life, like without anything that ever happened to you. And you know what? I would say no. If I could be today seeing where I am now, and honestly, not only I love my life, I love who I am. That struggle make me who I am. And I wouldn't say like, oh, I love suffering, bring me suffering. But you know what? Bible does say it's create and character and perseverance and hope. And I do believe because of that, I have the faith the way I do. Because
Yeah.
I know beyond the doubt that God saved me, restored me, healed me, blessed me. Because I do have before and after. That's why we compare this like all before and after. And that's what my friend one time said to me in the church. I rather know not about the miracles that happening to you right now, but what happened to you to get you to this. And it's really miraculous story. But I tell you how I got to believe in God, because I've been born and raised orthodox, but we never really have like any religion relationship. Like I think, like I always thought that we're atheists back home because we're moving. We didn't have any even tradition of ours. Like it was like I had nothing. But you know what? It's so funny because I'm grateful that I had nothing, because when I met Christ, my cup was empty. So he poured like Jesus into it, and that's what I have. I don't have anything like any contradictions or anything like that, which is like really interesting. Anyway, so that's what like really interesting, that um to actually I can speak with before Christ and after Christ. Sometimes we're thinking like, oh, we don't have God and where's God and all this stuff. But now, after writing my story, because I assume that I live my life in hell until I met Jesus, and it's almost like before Christ and after Christ. But then when I wrote my book, when I remember myself since 6 years old, praying in the bathroom so my father would not beat me, and asking God, if you're there, please save me. And he miraculously changing the situation that I know it couldn't be any different but God. So that seed already been there. And then he been with me in the brothel, in the drug addiction. But I tell you this story. That's something in between. So I end up in Cairo, Egypt, and then we have two guides accompany us for 5 girls. And honestly, guys, after being street junkie and thinking that I gonna die and be buried there and nobody ever know where I am, it was literally like so amazing, and even more than I ever thought was possible for me, because they took us in the restaurant. We experienced this culture and music and this amazing flavors. It was like so amazing. Then they took us to beautiful city where all the buildings were painted white, and I never seen anything so exotic. I watched the sunset over the Red Sea. I was like so mesmerized by the red and orange hues all over the sky. And like my heart was like literally overflowing, because now I'm clean from drugs. I'm experiencing this like glorious moment in my life. And I was so grateful to have that, even being given that chance to experience this beauty. But next day our hotel was raided by the police. They took us into the station, they took our passports, they took our fingerprints, because one of the guides was red flag as a trafficker. But they kept like asking us, why are you here? And I think that moment, first time, I got like really scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a country where I don't speak the language. I don't know like anything or anyone, what's gonna happen. And now we don't have documents. Like, I don't know, it was really scary experience. But because we've been given script and been drilled in that script, we were just saying the same thing. And plus they didn't have the Russian translator, so nobody spoke English that time too. So they had no choice but let us go. And they let go another guy who was accompanying us. So that second guy actually took us, and we drove another like few hours like through the sand dunes to some mysterious destination. And that's the second time I got like really scared, because he dropped us off with two huge Middle Eastern men with guns. And I was terrified. They didn't treat us well. And then at night, they forced us to crawl under the barbed wire to crossing the border into Israel. And I kid you not, I could see the soldiers on the on that border patrol tower. I could hear them speak the language that I don't know, but I have to follow the instruction and go under that tunnel, under the barbed wire. But because we were late, because of the police intervention, there was no one to receive us. So they forced us to go back. Then we stay night in that tent. And in the morning, they put us flat on lay on the truck, on the bed of the truck, and they throw the spare tires on top of us and cover us with tarp. So like they smuggle us in on through the border. And that time through the crack as well, I saw and police checkpoint and the soldiers and machine guns, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope they're gonna deport us, not to kill us or whatever it's going through. But we were so terrified, nobody make a sound. So when we were on Israel soil, there came another jeep with another guys. They stuff us in that jeep, and literally all that process, literally I felt that I was not a human, and it was such a bizarre experience when you just drag and shove and push and throw, and it was very traumatic. So then they brought us into the brothel, and they put, like, just like you probably saw it on TV. We were sitting in a big red couch, and there different people came and they bought us, just like on the market. They pick and choose us, and we end up in different brothels. And honestly, it was very important. Then later on, I find out what brothel you end up in, because the girls who came with me died, went missing, never seen again. And I got lucky, so quotation marks. I got into the place where it was like a family business, and they actually give me a bodyguard. I was clean, I was fed, they dress me, and they give me even some percentage of money so I can take care of myself. And that's what amazing situation was happening. It's I was thinking, like, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, she's in a brothel, she's prostitute. But it was actually upgrade for me, because now by default I'm off heroin. I'm dressed, I'm clean, nobody can rape me or beat me to death. So actually somebody protecting me. I had like 2 bodyguards, and I was actually could go buy my own food with my own money. So which is like, in that point I felt um that's kind of different, and it's changing. But what really cool, and I don't know if you guys ever feel that you cannot share the gospel with people, doesn't matter where you are, listen to this. I have a bodyguard who was teaching me Bible during the day. And he shared the gospel. He brought me kids' Bible, and I was so drawn to him because I never ever heard anyone to speak about Jesus the way this man spoke about it. And that's what attracted me to him, because I know the men in my life, they violent, they rough, they alcoholic, drug addict, they really, like, man is bad. Was first person in my life that it was a guy who actually, like, I don't know, I usually say shining, because I don't know like how even translate how it feels, the person who is full of spirit. He always
Right.
smile. He didn't drink, didn't curse, didn't do drugs. He was kind to people. He was kind to girls. He was kind to the client. Sometimes he have to deal with the problem. He still was smiling. I'm like, who are you? Like, how is that? And sometimes people thinking like, oh, how he end up in the brothel. I'm like, you know what? Actually, it's so interesting. He have his own problems, and that's how he's like end up in it, because in the brothel, because they actually was running from the prosecution from back home, and ended up that his wife, because she was Jewish, got all the perks of being Jewish, and he couldn't find a job, and he just want to contribute to his family, and this is the job he got. And honestly, he had a ministry. I don't know how, like, even if he knows that he led me to Christ in that moment, and that's what actually helped me. So when I all those stories and all reading the Bible, it was such a unique experience, because I was in a brothel. And then he actually offered me to go and pray at the Wailing Wall when my father had a heart attack. And my doctors in my country back home, they say, now his life in God's hands. And usually they use that phrase just because they're saying the doctors cannot do anything. And I thought, okay, in God's hands, then I'm gonna go ask his God, because he told me all these miraculous stories through their persecution days. So I gonna go and ask this God. So I actually went and I prayed in Jerusalem at the prayer wall, and literally closer I inched towards the wall. In my mind, I went to darkest and darkest places of my soul, because I knew that people like me don't deserve no mercy, no, like I'm not worthy of the audience of his God, this amazing God. And honestly, like all my dark deeds flashed before my eyes, and I was so overcome by this like deep sense of shame. And but honestly, I start praying, and now I'm sure that I encounter Holy Spirit. Although I was not Christian and didn't know God, I have those experiences now, and I do believe that's exactly what happened with me in that wall, because I put my hands on it and it was very cool stone, while like it was 60 degrees outside. And actually, if you don't know the Berlin Wall, it's a Western Wall, they call it sometimes. I do believe it's 6 feet. It's original wall, and then they add something. So Jesus probably touched that wall. And so interesting that I actually pray, and and if you ever read my book, you can hear about that encounter. But I have so much peace, and I knew in my soul, in my being, that my grandpa gonna be okay. I knew that God gonna show up and do the respond to that prayer. And I think that's what actually planted the seed for me to leave. I was almost there 2 years, and honestly, guys, in most cases, you will never leave this kind of situation alive unless you're died or you've been rescued. Again, by the grace of God, almost 2 years later, they sent me free, and I was allowed to go home back to Ukraine. So I thought I gonna build a new life. I'm gonna buy the apartment, try to find a normal job, and try to put all this trauma behind me. But one of my other bodyguard, who was like a brother to me, stole, like he actually cheated me out of all my possession. And literally it was like 3 people in my life who I trusted, and one stole all my possession, and my trustworthy aunt, who I sent money, she stole and spent all my money. So I actually came home and there was nothing for me. And I was so devastated and so angry. And of course, I turned to what was familiar, and I became the right hand of number one drug dealer in my city. So I had a limited amount of heroin. I had so much money. I had influence, and but it wasn't safe. I already ended up shooting the dose of 5 people, and I knew that if it's continue, because I'm trying to numb the pain, I gonna end up in the cemetery. And I had this, even like first time, I had this knowing in my heart. I do believe Holy Spirit spoke to me, because it was that phrase that through all my life I heard it. It was saying, "You've been made for more." And I always thought, especially like being high and kind of like desperate and in despair, I always thought like I'm made for more. What is there more? How can I get more? Where is this more? So I knew I gonna end up in the cemetery, or somebody gonna be murder me for these drugs or money, or I end up in jail. So I literally, this time, I didn't really know what to do. But I went and I sold myself this time willingly into sex trade, because like, why wouldn't I? That's all I knew. But this time they brought me to Canada, and of course I ended up on drugs and alcohol again, because that's how I cope with all of my problems. But here in Canada, I had an opportunity to start a new life, and I took it. And there's the kicker. Somebody told me that I have rights. What kind of rights? A human rights. I was over 20 years old when somebody told me, and I knew for the first time that I have a human rights. And that's what made me to run away against the fear. I was looking over my shoulders probably for 10 years. And I live in shelters and I learn English from level 0. And then I went to cosmetology course, and it was government credit course for 1 year, and then I have to do English and math to get my high school diploma, because I did my 12 classes back home, but they need this Canadian high school diploma so I could get my license. So I became a hairstylist, and actually I've been a hairstylist for 14 years, and I own my hair salon, which is like I really had a dream to build my empire. But while I want to have a dream to build my empire, while I was doing my co-op program, I met a boy. And of course, at that point, I didn't search for love. I didn't need a man, because I knew they liars and cheaters and drunks and violent and whatever. All I knew that he was fun and he was kind. So I thought, why not? Let's date. But after a while, he like the way he behaved, like he was like, I think like he was like second gentleman that I met in my life, and that actually was glowing. And I learned later on that he's Christian. He actually pastor's son. So I end up falling in love like crazy with him or for him. And now I know, after 18 years being together and married and having 3 kids and a home, I know exactly I fall in love with Jesus, who was in that man. And I know 100% by the grace of God and because the Christ in my heart, like we actually survive all this time together, because overcoming the trauma. And he's not perfect too, like God said to me just recently. I said, okay, God, you promised me thriving marriage. What's going on with this marriage? I want to thrive it. And he spoke to me like a few years ago, but he said, how two broken people can make thriving marriage. And I'm like, oh, so we have to heal. And that's what helping us. But because we have Jesus, we're working on the pride too. And when you check out pride at the door, you definitely can communicate better. And both of us actually, through therapy and counseling, we talk about it. So I thought like in the beginning it was love that hold us together through the years. But no, we just committed. We just committed not to give up. We committed not to walk away. And I do believe that that commitment actually got us through. But the interesting part that I still, like when I met him, I was learning how to drive. I was working on my black belt. I was working on my hair license. I was working all my stuff that I wanted to do for me, because I thought like Canadian people, normal people, again, like if you guys don't see me and I do in quotation marks, because now normal is so broad for me. But that time, because I come out from the abuse, trafficking, I always thought if I start achieving my goals, and I always like draw this worth and value and pride that I'm smart, I can learn and I can adapt and adjust, again because of the crazy situation being thrown at me. I assume if I get the diplomas, medals, awards, that status, I thought like I'm gonna get the worth and value and peace of mind, because then I would be like proper fit for the society and all that stuff. So when I met him, I didn't look at the family, but it would be really dumb to pass this chance. So we start like dating, and later on I actually got my license when I had my baby. I actually studied and passed from my first time 96 questions, like, oh no, but like it was 96% I finished my school with, and it was 200 question, 1 hour, $100 test. I'm like, I don't have another $100, so I have to do it in one time. So I passed the test. I got my license. You have to actually pass with 72%. So I passed. So I've been in Canada less than 2 years when all this happening. So extreme. But then I learned how to drive. I got my black belt taekwondo. I opened my hair salon when I already have 3 little kids. And then in 2019, literally like 1 year exactly before COVID hit, God just said to me, this is not the work you should be doing. And I closed my hair salon, and I was working 3 years on my manuscript. And in 2019, I published my book and I start sharing my story. But I skipped one really important part. So when I met this guy who brought me to his family, and up they all Christian, they brought me to the church. So I just show up to be like, impress his family, and I want them to like me. And it was really bizarre for them. Now I understand how bizarre it probably was for them to see their baby brother dating the chick with different color hair. My tongue was pierced. I was smoking. I was swearing. I have tattoos. And he was staying over. And they're like, what is this? It's bad. And then I got pregnant, and we still wasn't married. But you know what? They wasn't perfect. They wasn't happy about it. But they modeled the Christ for me. They showed me that relationship because they still accepted me and loved me and loved my baby. And we went to church. And then my mother-in-law actually said all the time, oh, you live in sin. I'm like, what sin? Like, we're common law partners. We paying our taxes together. Like, what do you want? Because back home, common law, this is like proper, it's not the marriage, but it's the union that accepted by the government. So I never even thought that there's some kind of other union, because nobody married anymore that time back home, because it
Right.
was discord. And one time I said to my husband, I'm like, this is so bizarre that she's saying that we're living in sin. Like, I'm washing your socks and cooking your dinner, and we have a baby. We have a family, and you're my husband. And he said, no, I'm not your husband. We are not married. And I was hurt. I'm like, well, you know what? Find a way to call me, because I'm not your partner. I'm not your friend or whatever. Like, just call me Lena. Because honestly, it was really painful. And I didn't even realize that he said that I'm not your husband. And then my mother-in-law said, listen, guys, I have a dinner and a movie for you in the church. Go hang out. You need some time with adults. And I babysit your daughter. And I think my oldest one was almost 4 years old. And it was in 2011. And I ended up being in Alpha course. So on the third day of Alpha course, I give my life to Christ. But all these 4 years, I was showing up for holidays in church, and I know God spoke to me, because the preacher that time, the pastor, was very interesting. He was like, and it's so bizarre to even think, like, God is so good. It's just like miraculous. So this guy was like super educated. He's like, before taking this position, he was working with something like nuclear power plant of Canada, and sometimes he used words that I actually have to ask people, what does it mean, and have to research. But I love the way he spoke. He was like super intelligent, and he always cried when he was talking about Jesus. I'm like, men in my country don't cry. What is this making this well-dressed, well-educated person cry in front of 300 people? Like, what does it make him sob? And say that he would lay down his life, stay on his knees, that like surrender everything. I'm like, what is that make you to feel this way? I think that emotion actually what captivated me. I want to know Jesus because I want to know like how he make people feel this way. And then of course there was like and love and peace and gratitude. I'm like, I want this because now on top of I had like diplomas and my recognition and awards and stuff, I had no drugs and I had a baby. I 100% knew that I had postpartum depression because of the chemical imbalance. I never been diagnosed, but I think that time I lived in hell because I was so clean and I never realized how bad is my mental health is because trauma didn't disappear. Nothing just disappear. I was not different person. I was the same person, but it's like almost like you hunt the animal and put it in the cage and now it's the same animal but domesticated.
Yeah.
It's still all there. So actually I had nightmares, I had these really bad thoughts, and fears, and oh my gosh, it was really scary to be actually clean and go through depression and anxiety and panic attacks. And I was over like 20 years old and I ended up in the hospital with the heart palpitation because I thought like I couldn't breathe. And they diagnosed me like with anxiety and panic attacks. I thought it's old people supposed to have that because they like cannot handle life. But it was happening to me in fear that I was afraid that my baby gonna die like my first one. I have like images. I could smell the like see the like soil where I buried her. Like I have this crazy like so devil hunted me. And I assumed if I have a like now I have this all this recognition and now I have a clean house, good husband, a healthy baby. I'm going to church, I see these people. I thought now I gonna get worth and value. So literally everything that I assume gonna give me peace didn't. So I didn't know what else I can get to make my brain stop, but not to be on drugs because I committed to be healthy for this relationship, for my child, for this life that I can build with them. So when I met Christ, literally that moment, I remember when I pray a prayer of salvation because like that was like that missing piece because nothing else I could get that would make me actually whole and I don't know and give me hope. Yes, that's I think the good one. And I remember like I felt that I belong, I felt loved, I felt forgiven, and I felt like this huge burden was lifted from my shoulders. And then I got a mentor. I had people who call me literally from nowhere and say, do you know how to use the Bible? I said, no. They say, open, go find the book and I will help you and teach you how to find the verses. And then I have people who called me and say, I have a word from you, from God to you. And actually that was verse about peace, Philippians 4:9. And this is my life verse because honestly it's all about God and I give it to him everything. And honestly
Man.
he always show up when I pray and I call on him. He always show up and he always help me, and I have faith that whatever is going on he always show up and give me peace no matter where, no matter how. I can rely on him 100%. There's another two verses I still hold on and always gonna hold on. It's one that say that his mercy renew for me every morning. So I need that even now. After all these years being Christian, I still need that.
Yep.
And the second one that he will never leave me, forsake me, or give up on me. So this really I'm holding up. And then I start learning about Jesus and I was so blown away how amazing his heart for me. And this new relationship starts. My life didn't change right away. It took long time to trust, to learn. And even writing my book, I didn't I wasn't called when I was baby Christian. I actually was already healed and forgiven and loved and have my family. Already was mom of 3 kids. That's why looking back from this new perspective helped me to reconcile with myself, with my family. But honestly, it helped me to see God's hand through all of this timeline. Remember in the beginning, I said it was before Christ, after Christ. And then
Yeah.
I saw myself praying in the bathroom and praying in the Berlin Wall and praying this. And I'm like, wow, God was in a pit of despair. He went through, like, with me through the darkness of the time and never left me or forsake me. And then I read the Bible and say, oh, I need you in your mother womb. And I'm like, wow, this is even cooler. So he had a plan from the beginning, and sometimes we can have lots of emotions and say, oh, how this beautiful God allowed you to go through and all this stuff. And sometimes it's hard to understand. Sometimes we never understand why this thing's happening. But I know for sure if like I have to go back and change it, I wouldn't. Because if I know where I am now with my family, with my children, understanding in my faith. So
Yeah.
now he called me to speak, and it's so interesting. You guys notice I'm talking a lot, yeah? And then it was so funny though, because when he called me to speak and I closed my business, devil hunted me again with the same imposter syndrome when I come out from the trafficking and this court and try to be like wife and mother. Devil hunt me, say, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to deserve this and be a good mom? And literally, I didn't deserve it. But God, he thinks that
Yep.
I am worthy in him. And now I start um, uh, learning different trade, because all my life I try to build my empire and I build my skills and I invest money and effort to be the best hairstylist, and I own the salon and I made money. But honestly, it's never fulfill me, because it took me away from my family. And then I realized, oh, I have a business, but I have anxiety, panic attacks, and I don't have anointing on that business. And then like, oh, why, God? Why? Oh, because I'm building my empire. And God said, well, now you're going to work for the kingdom, and let's see how that's going to
Yeah.
be. And honestly, when I start speaking, I say, God, like, I don't have any skills. I'm starting from scratch. I'm over 40 years old. Why I'm doing this and all this stuff? And then I did personality test for Christian leadership life coaching. This is another part where he led me for 2 years. And I said to God, oh, it's too busy. Oh, it's too much. Actually didn't say to God. I said to people who ask me, what you doing after you speak in events, what you offer and all this stuff. And then when I start with Christian leadership life coaching, it was a huge self-development tool for me. I've learned so much. I've
Yeah.
been coached. I've been trained and teach so I could help others. But I was underlining like all this book. It's like my Bible and this coaching book was second book that like all green with my highlight. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, God. And it's like being more and more like Jesus. And that's huge, because like honestly, that's what we're going for, in our life.
Oh yeah.
But I said to God, why you didn't tell me to do this course earlier, because it's so amazing. And I hear Holy Spirit saying to me, really, all those 20 people telling you the same thing, and what you were saying, oh, I'm too busy, oh, it's too much, oh, speaking already new stuff, oh, this and that. I'm like, oh, that was you. Okay, so I'm grateful that you're patient and kind and
Yeah.
really waiting for me to get to maturity, and because he doesn't give up. He doesn't gonna be like,
Nope.
"Oh, your time is up." Nope, he has the path for me and the passion. And then I start speaking, and it's funny, I did this test and life coach was number one for me as my personality trait. And then I start researching for my homework for this coaching personality traits and skills. And then it was like, oh, assertive, confident, thinking outside of the box and all this stuff. I'm like, what? I didn't know it's skills, but I acquired them over the lifetime because God
Yeah.
prepared me for this job. So literally, I was thinking I'm starting from ground zero again, and going through this course, I realized, oh my goodness, I've been made for this, and
Yep.
I
Foundation
love it. I
was
love.
already there. That's
Oh,
awesome. That's awesome.
I love it.
Well, you have. I just gotta say, just from listening to you, it's been amazing. I'm excited for this one to come out. I will. I think we're running up on time, so we'll go ahead. We'll close it out. I do know you have a couple things. You mentioned your book. You mentioned the coaching. I'll let you. If there's anything else you want to kind of plug or throw out there, you can do that, and then I will put links in the description for both the book and the coaching, and then anything else you want to throw in there. So if you want to give just one quick final thought, and then we will end it there.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, like if you just post my website, it's lenacebula.ca, and you can
Okay.
see everything that I'm doing there, and my podcast and my books and all the information. And actually, I partner up with some of the amazing organizations that you can free download all the information about human trafficking, or if you need any help, and you can learn little bit about the church and about Alpha Course, because I've been leading and um, sharing about Alpha Course. It's an amazing tool to learn more about God with really non-judgmental atmosphere. So you can learn everything from my website. But what
Okay.
I want to finish with, it's my favorite verse, if you don't mind, just.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So it's a quote by Marianne Williamson, and it goes, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? We were born to make manifest of the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our own light shine, we give other people permission to do the same. And my light shines bright these days. And now it's time for you to shine yours upon the world too.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Lena. It's been great. Maybe at some point in the future we can get something else set up and have some more discussion. So
Absolutely. I'm open and willing. And God bless you guys. And yeah, if you like, honestly, if you in the end of your open through you try everything, give God a chance. He loves you, and he cares for you, and he will never leave you, never forsake you, and never give up on you.
amen.
Everybody, thanks for watching Basically Biblical. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you always get notified when we come out with new content, which we do full videos once every week, and we have shorts that come out throughout the week, even on the weekend some. So you can actually click up here and it will take you into the playlist this video is from. If you like that, you can see some more that's more specific to what you just watched, or you can check out down here and it'll take you to YouTube's top pick of our content for you specifically. Thanks. God bless.